Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wildin' in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, a YouTube channel for fans by fans.
This is the Royal Rebounds Podcast. I'm Calvin. He's Barry. Today, we got a Kings win to talk about.
Kings end a 5-game losing streak that started in LA, and tonight they beat LA.
Beat LA.
Beat LA. We'll be right back with that for your Sacramento Kings nightcap.
Yep.
We're here, we're drinking beer, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below and consider subscribing to the channel. Oh man, that's a delicious,
Hallelujah. I like that, Kristen. I like
delicious
that a lot.
beverage. Shout out to Kristen, Jeff, Gotham, Fred, Mike Monticello. I see you guys here in the chat. Summer Low, Teddy King. Oh, I gotta show Teddy's comment in the chat here. Much appreciated. FLA. I totally agree. All right, guys. Well, Sacramento Kings end up with a win. They end the 5-game losing streak. Metu started tonight. Rashawn Holmes, we saw him back on the bench. Kings win 125-116. They played much better defense in this game, which is interesting to say considering they gave up 116 points.
Second half was good.
Yes.
First half was not that great.
We saw Tyrese Haliburton play much better. We saw De'Aaron Fox have a great game tonight. And it all ends in a Kings victory, and that is the most important part, right, Cal?
100%. Peja has turned around. I hope you guys are okay with that today after a nice big Kings win.
Yeah, huge Kings win. You know, I want to jump right here into the box score because there's a lot to talk about with this game. But I want to give a shout out to HB, 23 points tonight for him. You and I had both been talking about how we're missing the old HB, and we got HB back tonight. So you want to jump here into the box score? Yeah,
Harrison Barnes was huge. All the starters were huge in this game. None bigger than De'Aaron Fox. He leads the way with 29 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Him and Tyrese Haliburton were great in the backcourt tonight. 14 for Tyrese to go along with 10 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. HB, 23 points on 9 of 14 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3. And then, Metu and Bagley were big as well, getting the start tonight, 16 and 14 points for each of them. And Buddy Hield, the only bench player with double figures, 10 points off the bench on 4 of 8 shooting.
Another double-double for Tyrese Haliburton tonight, which was good to see. Some awesome defense by him. But I also got to give a shout-out to Marvin Bagley. I think Bagley played an awesome game tonight, 7 of 12 from the field, as you mentioned, 16 points, 9 rebounds. We saw him hit a 3, which I know you've been talking about. So really, really happy to see that from him. And then anybody you want to mention here on the Lakers?
Yeah, Malik Monk, once again. He did most of his damage in the first half. There were really only 3 players that scored for the Lakers tonight. LeBron, Malik Monk, and Austin Reeves. If you had that on your bingo card, you probably won tonight. 19 points for him off the bench in 28 minutes, 7 of 10 shooting. Malik Monk was great again. It was mostly in the first half that he really killed the Kings, but 6 of 9, once again from 3, 22 points. That just happens to be what he's averaging against the Kings this year.
Yeah, I think Malik Monk is probably on the best contract in the NBA at this point.
100%.
He's not making a lot of money, and he is definitely overperforming. But I got to give a shout-out to Austin Reeves. You know, if the Lakers won this game, I think he would have been the MVP.
Perhaps.
You look at LeBron James, 34 points tonight. Another great game for LeBron. I saw the numbers since AD's been out, and LeBron is looking like a serious MVP candidate in those 12 games. Mm-hmm. But as I said, Austin Reeves was all over the place. I can't even count how many fouls he drew tonight.
He was on the floor a lot.
Dude must have been an actor in his previous life. But, hey, he's also making buckets, making shots. We saw a game winner from him earlier this season. It seems like LeBron always needs a goofy white dude on his team. You know, like you go back to Mike Miller, Alex Caruso, Chetty Osman. So it's childhood dream, dude. I would love to be Austin Reeves right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He stepped up big for them today, and he's been, finding his way into this lineup all year long. For a guy in his rookie season that, you weren't really expecting much from, to come on to a team that is as talented as the Los Angeles Lakers and to be able to crack that lineup, that's pretty impressive.
I hear Kristen shouting, play in, play in, play in.
It's one game, but hey, this was a great step forward.
1-6.
Yeah. And honestly, because of the way the West is, the play-in is still a realistic it's still realistic for this team. So the Kings, they looked a lot better tonight, and I thought the biggest difference that was made was the fact that Metu and Bagley started. And it's not the fact that those two individual people started. It's the style of play that the Kings were allowed to perform with because they didn't have a big man that occupies the middle of the floor playing heavy minutes. I don't criticize coaching too often, but it was pretty clear to me when Alvin Gentry went to the bench early in the fourth quarter. He brought in Davion Mitchell and Alex Len. That was before Dwight Howard had even entered the game. The Kings were off to a really good start. They weren't really getting any stops, but they were keeping pace with the Lakers offensively. They were scoring. Metu and Bagley, they have much different skill sets, obviously, than Alex Len, and they bring a lot more floor spacing. And I think that if you're not going to make any deals or change this roster over a lot, this is the style of play that this Kings team needs to go with. They need to have floor spacing so they can get out in transition and run, play fast, clear the lane for Fox, and score a ton of points. This is not a good defensive team. That doesn't mean you don't try defensively, but you have to play to your strengths. And this team's strengths should be to get out and run, push the ball all game long, and get transition threes. You saw what wonders it worked for the offense. De'Aaron Fox was able to attack the basket at will. The Kings had a season-high 70 points in the paint tonight. They had a tie for a season-high 23 fast break points as well. That's the style of play that this team needs. We talk so much about identity. Who is this Kings team? Where are they going? How do they play? This is how they need to play every night.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, that's what we talked about is the difference between a good team and a bad team, right? Is being able to do this every single night. It's funny, I was going to ask you what you thought about the starting lineup tonight and starting Metu instead of Len, and I thought that's a fantastic answer. But for me, spacing was key. We saw Metu hit that three late in the game that basically sealed the game for Sacramento. But for me, it was rim protection. I love what I saw from Metu. He had a couple awesome blocks right at the basket. He made them work for it. Everyone's been talking about LeBron James is starting at center. He can do all these things. This Lakers team is such a big team, but they're starting LeBron at the center. We saw them try and throw Dwight Howard back in the game to kind of right the ship because he's had huge games against the Kings this year, and it just didn't work for them. The Kings were able to close out quarters. They were able to stop runs, and they were able to go on their own runs. I know in the third quarter they had a 24-3 run that was huge for them.
Yeah.
And, also I got to give a shout-out to Mark Jones. I thought he did a good job calling the game tonight. A lot of very memorable quotes. I love Haliburton put him in the friend zone. That was a great one. That was right after one of his blocks. But it just seemed like this Kings team was reinvigorated. And it's funny, I'm looking at my notes here in the first quarter. I'm like, miscommunications on defense. The Kings, are kind of out of it. And then as my notes go on, like, I love what I'm seeing from them. They're playing much better. They're communicating. It seemed like this was the first game that De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese were kind of on the same page defensively. And they were, making up for each other, helping each other out. If someone was going for a steal or taking a gamble, the other guy was there to get their back. And that was really big for me in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. They did not play good defense in the first half. And when you play a LeBron James team, obviously it's a very difficult task. And I think you can get caught more often than you need to as a help defender, just simply watching LeBron. And that is the last thing that you can do against a guy that is that smart and that good of a facilitator, that good of a passer. In the first half, they weren't really committing the double team fast enough. They weren't sure where it was going to come from all the time, and that screwed up their rotations. And that's why you got wide open three after wide open three for Malik Monk. And that was how the Lakers built a double-digit lead in the first half. Luckily, the Kings were able to close the gap because they were playing well offensively in their own right. But in the second half, I thought they had a much better plan of how to attack. The guys that were taking the open threes in the second half were Russell Westbrook, Austin Reeves, who did hit a few, and LeBron. And as great a player as LeBron is, I will always take him shooting a three over him posting somebody up in the high post with a double team coming, because he's going to pick that apart every single time.
Or get into the basket.
Or gets fouled.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of which, I thought the referees were trash in this game, especially against Sacramento. Good. I saw Marvin Bagley, clearly hit right across the arm on his injured thumb. I wasn't sure if he was going back into the locker room or not, or just into the tunnel to get on his bike that he normally does, but I didn't see him come back out.
Oh, yeah, he was on the bench.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very obvious call. We saw a call where De'Aaron Fox drives to the basket, gets hit hard, falls down. And, this is something I was actually upset with Fox about this. And it's not really his fault because it should have been called. But I wasn't happy with how he reacted. He laid on the ground. He didn't get back. It turned into a Lakers 3.
He had multiple of those plays, unfortunately.
Yeah, it turned into a Lakers 3. And I'm like, man, I know how you're frustrated, because I'm frustrated too. The referees are not calling shit. But you got to get back on defense. You got to keep playing the game.
Do.
You just can't.
Yeah.
But, I thought the referees did a horrible job in this game. And it was just really frustrating to watch. But I'm glad the Kings were able to overcome that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It was not a well-officiated game by any stretch of the imagination. But the Kings did get to the free throw line a bunch, 19 free throw attempts, and they knocked them down. Fox and Haliburton were a combined 9 of 11 at the foul line.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Were you worried at the end of the game when Buddy gets the ball and he slipped and fell down? I know they got the timeout there, but apparently there was a wet spot on the ground or something, and he slips and falls down, and I'm like, uh-oh, not again. Please, not again.
I was worried. Well, I was worried before that when LeBron makes that layup to cut it to 2.
Yeah.
I think it was 118, 116. I'll be honest, after losing 5 games in a row, I did think that this was going to be another loss.
Oh, man.
But I give the Kings a lot of credit. They came out, they stuck to what worked for them in the second half offensively.
Yep.
Push the ball with De'Aaron Fox, get it into the paint, and get transition threes for guys like Buddy and Harrison Barnes. HB attempted 6 threes in this game, 23 points.
Yeah,
that's something that the Kings have been missing for a long, long time.
It was a great game, and we actually saw him get to the basket too tonight, which was awesome. Just seemed like a whole different Harrison Barnes. 9 for 14 from the field. This Kings team shot really well as a team, 55% from the field, which you're going to win a lot of games when you do stuff like that. But just back on the whole subject of Buddy Hield, he gets the ball at the end of the game because the Lakers are going to foul. He's the best free throw shooter on the team, so he gets the ball. What's your feeling on the guy that gets the ball at the end of the game? He may be your best free throw shooter, but he's not the best decision maker.
Yeah.
That's a weird combination, right?
It's a very weird combination. You have to be pretty much 100% sure that the team is going to foul. But from the opposing team's perspective, you're right. I think they could try to, instead of automatically fouling, you could try to trap or just send guys at him, try to get him to make a mistake first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully that didn't happen tonight. But, for the most part, in late game situation when the game clock is under a minute or even under 30 seconds, as long as your best free throw player can somewhat dribble, which Buddy Hield can, you try to get him the ball for sure. But I think Tyrese could slowly move into that role, you know. He only attempted 2 free throws tonight, and he really doesn't attempt a ton of free throws per game in general. I'd like to see, obviously, you'd like to see him get more free throw attempts, get to the basket more, and draw more fouls. But I think they could go to him in those late game situations for free throws as well.
Yep. We got to see Buddy get a dunk tonight, too.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
How'd you like that, like self alley-oop half 360 attempt that he threw up?
I mean,
it obviously wasn't during the game, but after the whistle.
He's always trying to get shots up.
Yeah.
He's just trying to entertain the crowd.
Did you see Alvin Gentry giving it to Buddy Hield on the sideline tonight?
No, I missed that.
I was trying to figure out what was happening. It was in the second half. Fox ended up getting fouled, but Alvin Gentry immediately grabs Buddy Hield after the whistle blows, and he's pointing at him, he's yelling at him, he's cussing at him. I couldn't quite read his lips, but it was like very, very aggressive. My only guess as to what happened is that Buddy Hield either was not in the right position on the play, or he totally stood stagnant. When the play broke down, luckily you have a guy like De'Aaron Fox who can create and get stuff off the dribble. But I think he was unhappy with where Buddy Hield was first and foremost, and the fact that he didn't move to try to help create an outlet for Fox. But he really gave it to him.
I mean, there's different types of people with different personality types, and people react differently to things. And sometimes you have to motivate people in the way that they're motivated best. And it seems like yelling at Buddy Hield is the way to motivate him. Like we've seen Mo Harkless do it. We've seen some of these other guys do it. Like some people just need to be yelled at. I don't know. You know, I don't know Buddy personally, but it seems like that is the approach that many people take against Buddy Hield when he's making mistakes.
Yeah.
Strange. Very, very strange. What did you like from and what did you dislike from Davion Mitchell tonight?
I really liked what I saw from Davion. First of all, he's been struggling shooting, you know, as we all know. But his mind was really made up, it looked like, to get to the basket tonight. And he had a bunch of really nice drives. He had a great hesitation drive on LeBron James, puts up the layup, scores on him. Anytime you can do that on LeBron, I don't care who you are or what the situation is, that's a good move right there. But I think he was really focused on trying to get easier shots tonight. And he played great defense, great defense, which you come to expect from him at this point.
Yeah, I wanted to see him make that three. I don't remember who was guarding him, but he took him one-on-one, broke him down, stepped back, took the three. It was a little bit short.
Reeves when the ankle breaker move.
Yeah, a little late in the game. But, yeah, I think he's getting more and more confidence, which is good.
As poorly as he's shot over both in stints, you know, the beginning of the season and now this past, ever since he came back from health and safety protocol, he's got to keep shooting. He has to keep shooting. You have to be a threat on the floor. He's not a pass-first guard. He's a score-first guard. Yep. So I would like to see him continue to try to take the ball to the basket like he did tonight, but he's got to continue to take open shots when he has them.
Yeah, I agree. Only 1 minute for Keita tonight. A lot of people have been talking about how this guy needs more playing time. They like what they saw from him.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Not the right matchup tonight. Just like Alex Len, you know, I really, when I said earlier in the show that I don't critique coaching too much, when I was talking about Alex Len getting subbed into the game in the first quarter, I thought a little prematurely. It was before Dwight Howard had checked into the game. I give a lot of credit to Alvin Gentry in the second half because he only put Alex Len in the game when Dwight Howard was playing. He didn't try to, I mean, yes, he did play a few minutes on the floor when Dwight Howard was on the bench, but you know, that's going to happen. But I thought that he totally understood where the Kings had an advantage in this game offensively. They needed that floor spacing. They needed the more athletic bigs like Metu and Bagley in there. to counteract the smaller lineup that the Lakers were playing with. And I would hope, as the Kings are going to play 2 games against the Rockets after this, that we see that same lineup against the Rockets as well, because Houston is not a big team either.
Yeah, Alex Len cannot guard LeBron James.
No, and he couldn't guard any of the guys on the court tonight not named Dwight Howard. He was trying to guard Talen Horton-Tucker for a little while.
Yep. Well, I want to talk a little bit about Richaun Holmes. He's back, not officially, but he's back with the team. We saw him on the bench tonight. I know he's put some time in Stockton. Apparently, he's trying to get his conditioning back after being out with COVID. It seems to have affected him a little bit more than some of these other guys. You know, he's not known for his three-point shooting. You raved about, you know, you like the style of play they played tonight with Metu. They're able to space the floor, stuff like that. You know, obviously, in my opinion, Richaun is the best center on this team. And I think you agree with me. So how can they continue to play that style of play when Richaun returns?
Well, the nice thing about Richaun, as opposed to Alex Len, is he's got more athleticism. He doesn't space the floor necessarily, but you can use him, outside of the paint. Obviously, the pick and roll game is great with Tyrese. He's a lob threat, just like Metu and Bagley are. Not so much Alex Len. So you still have that verticality. You know, one of the things that can make up for the fact that you don't space the floor is you can get above the rim, which Richaun Holmes can. And defensively, he's able to cover more ground than Alex Len can. So that they can still play a similar style to this. But I again reiterate what I said at the top of this show, in that the type of basketball that the Kings played tonight, if they don't make any roster moves, that's the type of basketball that they need to keep on playing. And Richaun Holmes can run the floor very, very well, so they can still get out in transition when he's on the court, much better than if they had Keita or Alex Len, or even Tristan Thompson out there, who still runs the floor pretty well in his own right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree there. No Tristan Thompson tonight. Is he out in COVID protocols?
He's out with I thought it was like a thigh contusion or something like that, but I'm not 100% sure.
One thing that I really liked tonight was, you know, like you said, they played really fast in this game, but they were also able to limit the turnovers. Only 13 turnovers in this game. You know, I'd like to see a little bit less, you know, maybe 10, 9, somewhere around there. But we've seen these games this season where they've tried to run really fast. They've tried to be a fast team, and they just end up throwing like really crazy passes, stuff like that. I think they did a good job at controlling the ball tonight and playing fast.
They did. They did a very, very good job of it. And when you have a guy like De'Aaron Fox who can take the ball from one end of the court to the other, you know, in under 3 seconds or whatever it is, you don't need to pass to anybody, and that's great. But when you combine that with a guy like Tyrese Haliburton who can run the floor and pass, and Fox can pass. I mean, we saw him make a bunch of really good reads to guys open in the corners tonight. And that's the other thing, too, is obviously this looks so much better when the Kings knock down outside shots. That's the game changer. Metu was 50% from 3. Bagley was 50% from 3. Barnes was 50% from 3. When you get those types of contributions and you're running and you're playing super fast, you have the whole width of the court at your disposal, and it makes it incredibly difficult to stop at full speed for an opposing team.
Gotham said TT had an ultrasound appointment.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Did you see? So that Buddy Hield dunk, no dribbles at all.
No dribbles.
That was amazing.
Yes.
Full court pass, grabbed it, dunked it. I like that kind of fast break.
It was a result of him not getting back on defense. That's why he was that open. But hey, you know, we'll take it.
Oh,
and that was
funny.
That's the other part of being able to get out and play fast and run in transition that I didn't mention earlier. In the first half, offensive rebound after offensive rebound for the Lakers, second chance points, open threes. The best time to take a three is off of an offensive rebound. I think the Lakers ended up with 15 offensive rebounds in this game.
I think they only had 3 in the
but
second half.
They did not have many in the second half at all. So the Kings were able to secure the rebound, which allows you to start the fast break.
Yeah, I think only three in the second half. You want to touch on your keys to the game?
I would love to.
Bryce, we're going to talk about that here in a second. Just stay tuned for the next section. We'll talk about Tyrese. We'll talk about Fox. We'll talk about trades. We'll talk about the Sixers and Tobias Harris and all that fun stuff too.
Trades, so much fun. I kid. So my keys to the game tonight, number one, was take care of the ball. The Kings have been god-awful turning it over against the Lakers this year. They were averaging, coming into this game, 18 turnovers a game. They ended with 13 tonight, which is not a great game, but when you compare it to the other games they've had against this team, it's much, much better. They had 7 in the first half and only 6 in the second half, so closed the game on a good note. Number 2 was don't leave Malik Monk. He still got loose in the first half. But they did a much better job closing out on him in the second half. They were playing much tighter on him. I don't have the numbers in front of me as to how many points he had in the first compared to the second, but it was considerably less in the second half. And then number 3 was points in the paint, and they killed it on this one. They had been outscored 186 to 158 coming into this game. They outscored the Lakers by 28 points in the paint tonight, 70 to 42.
Kristen, I think Shaq sold his shares a while ago. Didn't he have to sell them to open like a sports agency or something like that?
He did, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was like 2 years ago at this point. I don't know.
It's back in the news, though. It's a big there's an article on ESPN about it. He's saying that maybe he'll be back someday.
Okay. In Sacramento?
In Sacramento, yes.
Oh, wow. I like Shaq. Other than the fact he called us the Sacramento Queens.
Yes.
But I think he's retracted that by now. If you guys haven't ever read Shaq's book, you should definitely check it out. It is hilarious. He talks about how he was afraid he was going to run out of money and it was going to dry up, so he bought all these car washes, and he was getting all these quarters, and he literally had 55-gallon drums of quarters in his bedroom that he didn't want to get rid of in case something happened and he needed money. That's a lot of quarters.
It is a lot of quarters. Shaq is never short of a good story. The guy's always got something good to say.
I don't think there's anything short about Shaq.
That is true.
All right. I see Alex here. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. All right, Cal, anything else you want to talk about this game, or should we move on here?
I think we quit while we're ahead here. Great effort tonight. Kings got the victory. They score over 120 points. A lot of really, really good things to take away from this game, and the fact that they closed out the game the way that they did after giving up 67 in the first half. It was on pace to be another one of the same Kings games, but hey, they have a little momentum here, and now you have to continue to let it roll.
Yeah, and, not only closing out the game, they closed out every quarter in this game.
They did.
Which I thought was very, very important and a good stride in the right direction. I think before we move on, we at least have to say we beat LA. We got to ring the cowbell here.
Yes.
We got Peja facing forward. He's happy. We're happy. We're not going to worry about the last 5 games. We're just going to say, hey, we won a game tonight, and we're going to move on, and we're happy about it. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to dive deeper into your Sacramento Kings trades, all that fun stuff with Around the Crown. Welcome back. This is Around the Crown. We're talking all things Sacramento Kings and beyond. Join the Royal family by smashing that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, you might as well hit that like button, especially if you are a Kings fan. All right, Cal, you want to remind them about All-Star voting?
Yeah, All-Star voting is going on until January 22nd. We have 10 days left.
Yep.
For you to vote for your favorite Kings players or favorite NBA players to make sure that they get their All-Star nods.
You can vote every day.
De'Aaron Fox is trending, perhaps?
Yeah. Rock the vote. We got to rock the vote here. All right. First topic of discussion here. The Philadelphia 76ers have begun to attach Tobias Harris to their trade discussions of Ben Simmons. This is according to Hoops Hype. and a bunch of other insiders around the league. The tricky thing is Tobias has a contract that runs for 2 more years. He makes $37 million next year and $39 million the year after this. Ben Simmons already makes a ton of money.
Yeah, I think it's like $80 million combined between the two of them.
Yeah, so if you add these two guys together, that is a lot of money.
It sure is. And Tobias Harris just had an MRI done on his shoulder today. He has tendonitis in his right shoulder, so that's going to make it a little harder to trade him as well.
I mean, if you're a GM and you're having issues with a guy and you're not getting what you want, it turns into a salary dump, right?
Yeah.
The reason I heard that they want to trade these guys is because they want to go after James Harden. I think he has a player option at the end of the season, so he could technically be a free agent this offseason. We know about his relationship with Daryl Morey. He already traded for him once, so maybe he'll be able to lure him away from the Brooklyn Nets if he is able to clear this salary. One thing that Monty McNair had been very adamant about in his first 2 seasons with Sacramento was remaining flexible. So I think this is a huge blow to any potential Sacramento Kings deal for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, unless you can somehow work a 3 or even a 4 team deal, so you can get other teams to kind of help pick up the salary. I also read a report by Woj that says Harrison Barnes has become a player that potentially moves the needle on a Ben Simmons trade.
Oh, wow.
That's all speculation really at this point. He's not the only guy around the league, but he's apparently a type of player or one of the players that the Sixers are now open to. It wouldn't just be him alone. It would be a package deal, but
Interesting. Harrison Barnes, Tobias Harris. How you weigh him out here?
Tobias Harris, definitely a better scorer, more consistent scorer, probably a better shooter overall, although Harrison Barnes has really made a lot of strides from outside shooting over the past couple of years. But I think Harrison Barnes is a more complete player. He's a better defensive player. He's just a more solid overall type guy. Tobias Harris is a tier 1 scorer, though, 3-level scorer for sure.
And
he's healthy.
And he makes a ton more money than Harrison Barnes.
Lot more money.
One thing, that Vlade did right, and I think he did more than one thing right, but one thing he definitely did right was signing him to a front-loaded deal that decreased salary every single year. Yeah. I thought that was huge. Dennis says, I wonder if Peja is closer to the Mavs organization after winning a chip there. I don't think so. Maybe he's closer to the players that were on that championship team, but I think he'll be a Sacramento King for life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I'm also reading reports here that the New Orleans Pelicans, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Milwaukee Bucks had seats reserved for pro personnel scouts at the Kings-Cavs game. This is usual, maybe it's unusual. Jason Anderson from SacB reported this. Maybe business is picking up for Sacramento. What do you think about this this information?
Well, again, it's all speculation. Like Jason Anderson says, it's more teams than usual on any given night. However, the trade deadline is getting closer every day. And, it makes sense for a team like Sacramento that is supposedly in the fire sale type mode right now.
I want to know what the Sacramento Kings scouts are doing. Where are they? What games are they going to?
Yeah.
Because, it's all about trading guys. You want to send guys out. A lot of people have been, get rid of Buddy, get rid of Bagley, get rid of Fox, stuff like that. But who are you bringing in? They need to send those scouts out and target some guys, because I'm not just sending guys out to clear salary cap just to get anybody. I want to target specific guys that I feel like will fit this system, that will play well. We mentioned lots of different names of people that we want to bring in. So I'd be interested to see what they're doing. All right, Mike, have a good night, buddy. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you after the Rockets game. But yeah, pretty interesting deal there. How many scouts normally go to a game? Do you know?
That's a good question. I mean, I wouldn't expect there to be a scout at every game, certainly, throughout the course of an 82-game season.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. As the trade deadline gets closer, you would expect to see more or have more seats reserved for scouts in general.
I got to get that job, man. I would love to have a seat reserved for me.
Yeah, I would love to be a scout. I would absolutely love that job.
Do you think this is
I would do more college than I would do pro, but
do you think this is a Sacramento thing, or this is just like every team below the 8th seed on, we're just going to send scouts to try and I know I do the same thing in fantasy football. Is when my team's doing well, I look at the bottom like, okay, who's not making the playoffs? I'm going to offer them a trade, maybe 2 good guys for one even better guy because they need to fill positions. And I need to compete for a championship.
I think that does make a lot of sense, but every team is in a different situation. I mean, I think you would be sending a lot of scouts to Lakers games because the Lakers are anytime LeBron James is on a team, the trade deadline is really important because he's always looking to improve the team going into the home stretch of the season.
Very true.
So depending on what the team's situation is, they don't necessarily have to be 8th seed or below for you to say, okay, let's go send some scouts over here. It just, you give it a feel for what the team is doing and whether or not it looks like they are going to be making some moves or looking to make moves. And it depends on what types of moves too, right?
Yep.
One team is going to be trying to sell at the deadline. The other team is going to be trying to buy at the deadline. So
interesting you mentioned the Lakers. I read an article this week that the Lakers have been going after Malik Monk or interested in Malik Monk for over a year. Yeah. During last season, LeBron's watching this guy and talking to some the front office of the Lakers, and they're like, we want to bring in Malik Monk. We like him a lot. He doesn't seem to fit in with Charlotte and what they're doing, but he's a great player, and he's playing incredibly well for this Lakers team. He seems to fit in perfectly with a guy like LeBron James. So that just goes to show that guys are paying attention. Guys are looking around the league, maybe not even to bring a guy in this season, but maybe next off season or stuff like that. But Malik Monk has just been playing incredible, man. I really like.
He's going to earn himself some money.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Unfortunately, he plays really well against the Kings, but I like everything I've seen from him. And I'm just going to say it again. Kings had 2 draft picks that year. They took De'Aaron Fox. I wanted them to take Malik Monk also. He was available. They took Zach Collins. They traded the pick. I'm not going to lie. I was happy we got Harry Giles. I was a fan of his since high school. Unfortunately, he had the injury in college or multiple injuries in college. But I think Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox would have been an incredible combo for the Sacramento Kings team.
Yeah, we know they would have enjoyed playing together.
Right.
That's for sure.
Yeah, Dennis. LeBron smacked Bagley's arm. I mean, the refs were trash tonight, dude. All the Kings players were getting beat up, and the refs weren't calling anything. But I feel like I'm used to it by now because it seems to be a regular occurrence. We saw the shot clock operator try and screw the Kings out of a game, and welcome to being a Kings fan, I guess. Brian says, any speculation on where the Kings might be with draft and who we might be able to get?
Well, as of right now, they're still, on the fringe of another lottery pick. I mean, I would guess, I don't know exactly where they're projected, but I would guess it'd be right in that, 9 to 12 range again. As far as who they would look to take, I'll be honest, I haven't done a ton of scouting yet between working my 40 to 45 hours a week at my full-time job and then watching all the Kings games and doing these podcasts. It doesn't leave a whole lot of time left to watch college games on top of that.
You watch lots of other NBA games too.
I do watch some other NBA games, not lots. I watch some, but the Kings aren't going to draft anybody from those other NBA games.
That's true. That's true.
But I promise as the draft gets closer, I will start looking much, much more into that, and I'll be able to give a much better answer to that question.
Vinny, can you show my screen here? I don't know if you guys know about this website. I'm not advocating tanking, so don't take it the wrong way. But this is a really cool website that, as a Kings fan, I've been using for like 5+ seasons, maybe longer, because we are always seem to be in the lottery. So there's a couple cool things you can do here. One, you can sim the lottery. It says the Kings are slotted at the 8th pick right now, or maybe tied with New Orleans. You can sim your lottery here. It tells you, where you'll be, and then you can click on your mock draft too, and you can sim that as well if you want. So, I like that, Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, it's looking like a normal Sacramento Kings season here, where 8th pick, Keegan Murray, sophomore power forward out of Iowa.
A good player. I mean, all of these guys in the top 10 are good players right now. This draft, I don't think, is going to be quite as strong as last year's draft, but it's very top heavy. The top 4 to 5 picks in this draft are all going to be incredibly good pro players. Jabari Smith, who I see there at number 1, I will say he is my easily odds-on favorite to be the best player in this draft right now.
Yeah.
Not really a power forward, but power forward size. 6'10" guy out of Auburn, can do everything. He handles the ball. He shoots really well from outside. He's a phenomenal defender, huge wingspan. He has all of the credentials that NBA scouts are going to be drooling over. So, if the Kings can somehow get up into the top 1 or 2 picks, that would be amazing, because they would have a chance to take a really, really fantastic player. But that's going to require either a lot of tanking or a lot of luck.
I mean, I think the top 3 picks here all have a ton of potential. And not saying that 4, 5, 6, none of these guys have potential either, but I think these
Don't sleep on Jaden Ivey. That guy is an absolute baller.
But I think these top 3 guys you're looking at, I think any of them could go number 1 in this draft. It's
as of right now, yeah. I still think Jabari Smith by the end of the year is going to be the clear number 1 favorite to be the number 1 pick, just because the NBA drafts so much on potential now. Yep. And not to say that this guy is still a work in progress, because he's putting together a phenomenal season already, but he's really young and he has every ounce. I mean, he checks literally every box: athleticism, length, handling. He can control the offense as a huge 6'10" guy. He can shoot from the outside. He has good post-up moves. He's extremely athletic. There's no more complete player in this draft than him.
Yeah, and I think if the Kings end up staying where they're at, if it's possible, I really like Patrick Baldwin Jr. a lot. I think he's a great rebounder. He can score. I think he would fit really, really well in this Kings team. What's your thoughts on Pat Baldwin?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think he would give the Kings he would add a lot of what the Kings need. We talk a lot about wing depth, outside shooting, defensive play, rebounding. He could help in all of those categories for sure.
I draft him in almost every NBA 2K rebuild that we do. All right, Vinny, you can cut that there. All right, I got another trade here to talk about. Calvin, your favorite. This one was posted by Heavy.com. It's a 3-team deal. It's actually, there's a lot of moving pieces in here. And it's a Ben Simmons trade.
Yep.
It doesn't include Tobias Harris, so maybe this is outdated. But Boston Celtics received Terrence Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Philadelphia's 2022 first-round pick, and it's a 2024 first-round pick swap from Philadelphia. Sixers received Jaylen Brown, Juan Hernan-Gomez, and Sacramento gets Ben Simmons, Jaden Springer, and a 2023 first-round pick swap from Philadelphia.
Shit happens, Gotham. No more dry January. Sorry.
How do you feel about this deal?
There's lots I like from this deal, and I think each team in this deal gets something that they want, for sure. Boston gets a point guard. Philadelphia gets another star player to pair with Joel Embiid, and the Kings get Ben Simmons, whether or not he is as coveted as we think they covet him. I still believe, just based off of, the last few mega trades or really, really star players that I can remember being traded over the past few years in the NBA, whether it's Paul George or James Harden, I think that Boston, from what I kind of think I know about their organization, they're going to be wanting more for a guy like Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. More picks, De'Aaron Fox, and somebody else not named Terrence Davis. Because Terrence Davis, I'm not so sure how much he really helps Boston.
He doesn't move the needle.
He doesn't move the needle.
Yeah.
So 2 picks, one that's top 5 protected and another pick swap plus those 2 guys. Yes, it is De'Aaron Fox, but I still think that Boston is going to want more for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I agree. What's up, Progressive G? Good to see you here. Sean, what's up, Sean? Jeremiah, I see some F the Lakers. Shelly, what's up, Shelly? These games are rigged. I mean, they tried to rig the game, but we won anyways. Hopefully you're not a Lakers fan and saying that as a shot at the Kings, because I don't think anybody's rigged a game for the Kings, but I'd be open to that. But yeah, as you said, new information's coming out. Apparently they want to get rid of Tobias Harris. So as you mentioned, maybe a 3-4 team trade could make that happen. But wow, the Sixers are going to be sending out a ton of salary. So that either has to be a deal with, Detroit or somebody that can absorb a bunch of salary, or they have to be taking a bunch back, maybe 1-year deals, expiring deals if they plan on signing a guy like James Harden. I know Tristan Thompson makes a ton of money this year. He's expiring. You'd have to find a bunch of expiring guys. But at the same time, if I'm the Sixers or if I'm Joel Embiid, I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm not trying to just play out this season so that we can get James Harden at the end of the season. Like, we're a good team. Let's compete now. We need to win now. I've had injury concerns in the past. I've, been relatively healthy this season. Let's make a run now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And if you're looking at it from not just Joel Embiid's perspective, but the rest of the Sixers, they've been a playoff team in this Eastern Conference that is much, much improved all year long without Ben Simmons.
Yep.
Tobias Harris hasn't played a ton of games either this year. So if you can get one more guy who's a win now type guy, who knows what happens with them? I mean, Embiid is having he had an arguably MVP type season last year, and he's playing just as good, if not better, this season.
Yeah, I agree. And, I feel like the pressure was on Ben Simmons before, but I think it shifted to Morey at this point, where it's like, we already know what we're getting from Ben. He made it pretty clear. He doesn't want to be on this team. He's not going to report. He wants nothing to do with them. But if you're Ben or if you're Daryl Morey, your players have got to start getting upset with you because you're the one that's in charge. You're the one that's in control. This can't be another lost season. I don't know how many seasons have been lost seasons for the Sixers in the past 10 years. You can't just punt on the season. You have a guy that's, I think, probably the best center in the NBA. And you have an opportunity to surround him with other guys. You got to make a deal, even if it's not for another all-star. You got to move on from this guy. You got to make a deal. If you think you can trade or sign James Harden in the offseason, clear cap space then. But this season, you got to be focused on this season. Brian likes Seth Curry. I like Seth Curry too. I wish we would have never let him go in the beginning. Progressive G, can Vivek call someone in Vegas to get Kings games rigged in our favor? That'd be sweet.
It would be sweet. I don't know how much pull Vivek has in Vegas, but it's worth a shot, I guess.
The Maloofs would probably be better off for that. But yeah, let's rig some games. Whatever that would take, I would be definitely down for that. Let's see here. I had another thing I wanted to talk about. I can't even remember it right now. Any other NBA news you want to talk about, Cal, right now? Or Kings news?
I don't have too much other Kings news. I mean, it was nice to see Rashawn Holmes back on the court. On the court, not suited, but
I remembered.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about Fox and Haliburton here, but before we do that, real quick, Kyrie Irving.
Oh man,
did you see the story that came out today?
I did. I didn't read too much into it, but I did see a headline.
Okay. I saw a story talking about how Kyrie Irving can play home games this season.
Yeah.
The Sixers have to be, the Nets have to be willing to pay the fines. Apparently it's, every strike it goes up and then it levels off at was it $5,000 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
What a crazy turn of events. To first, we don't want a part-time player. You want to play away games? No, just stay off the team. To now, you can practice, you can play away games. To now, we'll break the law for you to play, and we'll even pay the fines. Is that crazy?
It is. Well, crazier things have happened. I'm certainly not surprised to hear this here today. If you had told me that that's eventually what would have happened when the season started, I would have been very surprised. But that was obviously before, 15% of the league was in health and safety protocol, and guys were literally picking up 40-year-olds off the street. And so it's a crazy world we live in. And if any team's going to do it, it makes sense it's the Nets, right? Because they're the team that has the record for the most money and the most consecutive years in the luxury tax, right? When Mikhail Prokhorov was the owner there.
Yeah, but he sold the team.
Right.
So he's gone now. But it's pretty wild. I didn't even know this was a possibility. I guess if I were to say anything, I'm disappointed in Kyrie's agent. Because if this was even a possibility, this would have been the first thing I would have discussed with the Nets at the beginning of the season. How much money did Kyrie Irving miss out on or lose by not playing these home games? If you could have just been I'll just pay a $5,000 fine every game, he would have been in the positive.
Yeah, most likely. Better late than never, though. They just got a big win over the Bulls tonight, so
it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into a vaccine debate with you guys. Whatever your personal thoughts are, whatever. Everyone has their own different opinions. But it's just wild that they're willing to pay fines for this guy. It's a whole 180.
Oh, it's a 360 at this point.
Yeah, it's a complete one. All right, so let's talk about Fox and Haliburton. Interesting discussion I was having with a friend, Ethan. You know him. He's a token redhead guy.
I know Ethan.
So we were talking about Fox. We were talking about Haliburton. We were talking about how these guys impact their teams, what they can do, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I got a question for you, Cal. Do you think De'Aaron Fox makes his teammates better?
Yes, I do think that.
Because, this is not a knock against him, but his style of play, run fast, get to the basket, do his own thing. He does pass the ball, but he doesn't pass it a lot. He's not a pass-first point guard like some guy like Tyrese would be. And we've seen him have a lot of incredible games this year where he's played really well and nobody else on the team has played well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has to do with him or him dominating the ball or his style of play or just, guys not being ready to step up. Maybe the Kings not surrounding him with enough talent. But then you look at a guy like Tyrese, and I was telling Ethan, Tyrese clearly, to me, makes his teammates better. He puts them in better positions. And I guess I'm just talking offensively, maybe not defensively, but when you can pass the ball as well as Tyrese does and set up big men, play the pick and roll game the way he does, he just, in my mind, clearly makes his teammates better. And I don't know if I can say the same thing about De'Aaron Fox, but I want to hear your opinion.
Well, I mean, I think I agree with you in the sense of what you can actually see on the court, and the when you lead the team or you're one of the top guys in the league in assists, that's something that's visible and tangible that you can say, yes, he does make his teammates better because he consistently gets the ball to teammates in the right situations for them to score. Therefore, they take advantage of playing alongside him. Therefore, they are better because of that. And I agree with that. And I'm not saying that De'Aaron Fox makes his teammates better than Tyrese makes teammates better, if that makes sense or if you're following me there. But you can also make teammates better in different ways. You can make teammates better in ways that you can't see on the court. Now, before I say what I'm about to say, I am not comparing De'Aaron Fox to Michael Jordan.
Oh, this is what I was going to bring up next.
But Michael Jordan is one of the first things you associate with him is that he made his teammates better, right? He's the total winner, the true champion. He brought guys along with him, and he brought them up. He built them up. He didn't pass a lot. He rarely passed at all. And he still made his teammates better because he demanded what he needed to demand out of them on defense, and he also gave them the confidence in clutch situations to step up and be great.
Yep.
Okay, now that's all I'm going to say about that. De'Aaron Fox is not that person. But I do think that when you're the best player on a team, and it's been your team for a number of years, guys look up to you, guys respect you, guys follow you.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about leadership on this team, and if there is a lack of leadership on this team. And while that might be true, even a team that has, even the worst team in the league still has leaders on that team. So for somebody like Davion Mitchell coming into this league, or even Tyrese Haliburton coming into this league, you know, Tyrese is a great player, and he got off to a really good start. But I think having somebody like De'Aaron Fox on the team, it couldn't hurt him. It definitely had to help him in some regard. So I don't think that – I think Fox can make improvements in this area, but to say that he doesn't make anybody better around him, I think is a foolish thing to say.
Yeah. I mean, I partially agree with you there. You know, you talk about De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton. I think that De'Aaron Fox has definitely helped Tyrese mentally and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's pretty clear you take De'Aaron Fox off this team, Tyrese is averaging 20 and 10. Not that that's, you know, saying that he's a better player when Fox is off the court. It's just he has the ball more in his hands. He can kind of play more of his game. You know, Ethan and I went down this crazy wormhole of LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. Both great players.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, Kobe is similar to Jordan in the way that he elevates his teammates in a different way that LeBron does, right? LeBron seems to elevate his teammates with his play on the court in terms of setting them up, giving them easy buckets, putting them in the right position to do things. And not saying that Kobe and Jordan didn't do that, but I'm just saying Kobe and Jordan was more of a mental, more of a lift guys up, more of a be like me, watch what I do, stuff like that. And so we kind of got in, you know, not a debate, but a discussion about where this team's ceiling was if they had one guy and not the other. And it was just kind of an interesting conversation to have. And I wanted to hear your thoughts and see if you thought that Tyrese made his teammates better than Fox makes his teammates.
So much of that conversation is really hard to quantify. I mean, you just mentioned LeBron is more of a make his teammates better on the court type person. I don't necessarily think that's true. I mean, I do agree that he does. He obviously is more of a facilitator. He's a great passer. Kobe and Jordan were not those type of people. They wanted the ball in their hands all the time.
Yeah.
But to say that LeBron doesn't have any type of mental influence on his teammates off the court or in the locker room,
he definitely
or in practice
does,
or anything like that,
yeah.
you know, those are things that none of us see ever. Even media members rarely get to see intimate moments like that in a locker room situation or in practice. So, and again, this is maybe not worth mentioning because De'Aaron Fox is not in the same category as any of those guys, and neither is Tyrese Haliburton.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that it's really hard to actually put into words and numbers and physical items how much one guy makes his teammates better. Aside from, you can say, well, this person shoots X percentage off of this person's passes, and this guy is a great leader. He really rallies the troops around him, and he seems to know everything and calls out defensive assignments and all of that stuff. Those things you can see, but you also don't see the off-season, team building stuff that these guys do. You don't see the work that they put in every single day. You don't see the dinners that they have with each other at their house. You don't hear what they're talking about in those conversations. And those things do, whether they make a huge impact or not, they do build into making your teammates better, is all I'm going to say.
So how do you weigh that?
The question was, does De'Aaron Fox make his teammates better? And my answer to that is yes.
How do you weigh that out?
How much is a different story.
Yeah, how do you weigh that out? Because that was the problem that we had, was trying to figure out. So,
well, that's kind of what I was trying to say, is that it's really hard to weigh all that stuff out. And the easiest way to do it is to look on the court and to see how the team is playing, and what guys succeed together in certain moments, in certain situations, in certain offensive sets or defense, stuff like that. All of that stuff, builds up into team chemistry. There are only a minuscule percentage of people on the planet that are like LeBron and Michael Jordan and Kobe in terms of these apex alpha male leaders in a room full of men, Yep. You look around the league right now, outside of LeBron, I mean, how many other of those guys can you name on any team in the NBA? So I think it comes down, you were talking about what, the direction of the team or how the team looks with one on either Fox on the team and not Tyrese, or vice versa. And to me, that really just depends on who you're surrounding around them. The NBA is not a one-trick pony anymore. It really never was, but it used to be a two-man league where two guys could dominate and win a title. And now you need three, potentially even four guys. So no matter how much one individual makes his teammates better, you still need those other guys on the court. And to me, that's what this whole debate about should the Kings keep Fox or Haliburton boils down to. It's not so much one or the other. It's who are you going to put around them after the other one is gone? Because I think the team can succeed in both avenues, but it really depends on who is coming in.
Yep. Gridlock, welcome to the channel. Glad to see you here in the chat. Calvin and I are huge Miles Turner fans, and we would welcome a Miles Turner trade to Sacramento. So just to wrap up this whole section, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you were to trade one and keep the other, higher ceiling for the team, Fox, Haliburton.
Well, again, it depends on who I'm getting in return.
If it's the same guy. If you could trade Fox for Ben Simmons, if you could trade Haliburton for Ben Simmons, or Siakam or Miles Turner, whatever that other guy is, if it's the same, which guy do you think gives this team a higher ceiling? And I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here.
That's
I know.
a very difficult question to answer, but well, I'll say this: if we're talking about Ben Simmons, Haliburton is the better person to put alongside him, because De'Aaron Fox and Ben Simmons both need the ball in their hands, and Fox is not an off the ball player. He's not a spot up shooter. He's not a catch and shoot type guy. You're not going to want Ben Simmons to shoot either. Mm-hmm. You're going to want him to kind of facilitate and do the things that Haliburton does right now alongside De'Aaron Fox. Haliburton, you do want the ball in his hands. You want him to facilitate as well, but he's such a great shooter, such a phenomenal floor spacer. I mean, he's like, they showed the stat during the game. He's like 6th or 7th in the NBA in 3-point shooting right now.
The past 2 months, he's number 1.
Yeah. Over the whole course of the whole season. But I also think that there are players that you could put alongside De'Aaron Fox that would be a really great match. And it's still so hard for me to sit here and say that the Kings need to trade De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
The guy is incredibly talented, and I really think, he hasn't had – Haliburton's the best player that he's probably ever played with in Sacramento.
Yeah, and if they can play like they played tonight, or at least in the second half of this game, I really like the chemistry that I see from them. It's just whether they can do that over and over. I see some guys here in the chat talking about whether Fox ever had a guy that could average 20 points a game and stuff like that. I think Teddy had a pretty good comment here. It's hard for someone to average 20 if they're playing next to Fox. Hallie, on the other hand, can get you 20 points and 10 in his sleep. And it gives other guys opportunity to get 20 points versus De'Aaron Fox is kind of a different kind of player. He's the guy that, he's not a pass-first point guard. This is basically what this whole debate is about, right? Is a pass-first point guard versus a shoot or a driving first point guard. And, I think Haliburton is the traditional guy. If you were to look back at all the traditional type of point guards that succeed and play well, he fits that mold better. And De'Aaron Fox is kind of a new school guy that, give me the ball and get out of the way and see what happens. And it's interesting. I'm happy to have them both on the team at this point. All right, Cal, I think we are ready to move on. Anything else you want to talk about here in Around the Crown?
No, I mean, this is a really good debate. Obviously, it's something that we've been talking about, all season long, and we're going to continue to talk about as long as the Kings stay constructed the way that they are.
And they're losing.
Yeah, it's a tough problem to answer. I just pulled up De'Aaron Fox's career numbers real quick. 6 assists for his career per game.
Yeah.
That doesn't lead the league, but that's not bad. I mean, it's not like, I saw somebody say in the chat here that he's a ball hog.
Kobe's a ball hog.
I wouldn't
Jordan's
really
a ball
describe him like that. Those guys didn't average 6 assists per game for their career.
Yeah, also
very different players.
Also didn't
very
play
different
point
players.
guard
I
too.
understand that,
Yeah.
But it's not like De'Aaron just gets the ball and it's a black hole. I mean,
yeah,
he is so good at getting to the basket. That's what you want him to do. But I think that if you put him alongside a really dominant big man, that would be an incredibly scary duo.
Yeah, I think Progressive G's got a good point here. He said he's never had a capable, consistent second option on the Kings. Some people are going to say, well, that's because he didn't put them in the position. But, I agree with you. He hasn't really had that. He's had Harrison Barnes. We talked about Harrison Barnes being the second best player on this team. We called him the first best player on the team at the beginning of the season.
He played like it.
He was playing like it. But he's not consistent. And, it's tricky. They need to get more talent on this team. I think that's pretty clear. Kristen said he's so good at getting to the basket. He knows he's the best look a lot of the time. Yeah, and to elaborate on that, One difference that I've seen in De'Aaron Fox in the past few weeks is that he's not looking to get a foul. I know we talked about tonight him getting frustrated when he got fouled and not getting back on defense, and stuff like that can drive you crazy. But as far as on offense and getting the basket, it seemed like a lot of times earlier in the season, De'Aaron Fox is trying to pick up the foul. He's trying to do that move and do the veteran move and pick up a foul. And now it seems like he's like, okay, the refs aren't calling stuff. I'm getting to the basket, and I'm trying to make the bucket. If a foul happens, I'll try and make the free throw too. But my main goal is making a bucket. And that's a huge difference in my opinion.
Yeah, it is 100%.
I'm glad you guys are having this debate in the chat because I think it's very healthy. And it's an important thing to think about. You know, on a positive note, we're very lucky to have two of these guys that we both think are capable starting point guards in the NBA. There's not a lot of teams that have that. But at the same time, they need to figure out a way to get more talent on this team.
Yeah.
If you can't surround these two guys with talent, then one of them has to go and you have to trade for talent. But if you can keep these guys together, if they can fit together, and you can find ways to bring more talent to the team, you know, more power to you. But it's obvious this Kings team needs more help.
They 100% do.
All right. Okay. You ready to move on? All right. We're going to take another quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at the Kings' next game and next week of basketball with Kings Crusade. Welcome to Royal Rebounds, a Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans. The Kings continue their crusade to get back to the playoffs. Next up is the Houston Rockets. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below and consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy content like this. Calvin and I are both huge Kings fans, and we put out fresh Kings content almost every day. All right, Calvin, I'll let you take the reins here. We got 2 games upcoming against the Houston Rockets, one of the worst teams in the league, the worst team in the Western Conference. How are you feeling about these 2 matchups?
Well, I'm not going to spend a ton of time really diving deep into keys to the game here because it goes without saying, even though the Kings have been playing really, really poorly as of late, that these are 2 games that they should be able to win. And I think that if they play the same type of lineup that they played tonight, they match up very well with this team. It should be a high-scoring affair. The Rockets give up the most points of any team in the league, over 116 a game. The Kings are 3rd in that category at giving up over 113 a game. So expect fireworks. There's going to be a lot of points scored. Number 1 is going to be who will take better care of the ball. This is a pretty key core to the game, or core key to the game of any game for any 2 teams. Houston is dead last in the NBA in turnovers per game, though, 16.5 per game. So the Kings have an opportunity again to get out and transition, fast break points, transition threes. Things like that are going to make winning these games a lot easier. Number 2 is rebound. Houston is 29th. That's second to last in the NBA in rebounds per game at 42. Marvin Bagley has been rebounding like a grown man as of late. Metu is good at rebounding. Harrison Barnes is a good rebounder. They should be able to capitalize on the boards here in these next 2 games. And then the last one is bench production. The Kings have a big advantage here against the Rockets in bench. The Rockets have 5 players averaging double figures. All of them are their starters. After that, they're very, very thin in their roster. The Kings have a huge opportunity when the bench comes in to really take advantage and maybe build a lead in these games.
A lot of scorers on this Houston Rockets squad. They beat the Spurs tonight 128-124. Eric Gordon had a huge game, 31 points for him. Can't sleep on him. Can't leave him open. Deshaun Tate also played well. We all know about Christian Wood. Jalen Green is back, and Kevin Porter Jr. is back as well. This is a very potent
They have
offense.
a lot of very talented individual players. And outside shooting is going to play a big role in these games too, because both of these teams are very hit or miss. They're streaky shooters. So if Eric Gordon is getting going, that's going to be a big problem for the Kings. If Buddy Hield is hot, that's going to be a big problem for the Rockets. It'll be an interesting key to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and, it looks like we're just under a week here from my prediction of the first Kings trade of the season. Hopefully the Rockets will leave, and they'll leave a guy like Christian Wood in Sacramento. We can only hope for that. But, 2 home games against the Rockets. Then we take on the Pistons at home. I think this is a great chance to potentially go on a 4-game winning streak, help balance out this 5-game losing streak we just finished. And then we go on a road trip, a really, really tough road trip against the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Knicks. Then we're back home against the Nets, play the Warriors. That is a very, very tough stretch of games. But hey, if I were to look at this list of teams, I think there's a trade target on every single one of these teams for Sacramento. So, hey, maybe they're a little bit closer. Maybe Monty needs to travel with the team, get in one of these boxes, get in contact with some of these GMs, and maybe make a move here. I know we didn't talk about it in the last section, but John Collins could potentially be available. I know he's unhappy in Atlanta. Yeah. I think he would be a huge pickup for Sacramento, and they need somebody at that 4 position. So Sacramento is officially, let's see here, they are officially in the 11th spot at 17-27 on the season, 10 games below 500, 1 game away from that play-in spot, and they actually have a win over Portland, who's in the 10th spot right now. We know they've been dealing with injuries to C.J. McCollum, Damian Lillard. So if the Kings are able to go on a little winning streak here, they could potentially pass the Blazers and get closer to the Timberwolves and the Lakers for a potential spot in that play-in tournament.
They sure could. And it was announced today that Damian Lillard's going to have surgery on that injured abdominal muscle, so he's out an additional 6 to 8 weeks minimum for recovery from the surgery. No timetable for C.J. McCollum to come back either. So the Blazers appear to be in dire straits there.
And that puts them both past the trade deadline as well. Yeah. So maybe, both of them will be ineligible to be traded. Maybe they'll end up clearing roster spaces, trading guys like Robert Covington, stuff like that. So it's going to be an interesting couple weeks for sure. Anything else before we wrap up the show here, Cal?
Thanks for watching. Happy to talk about a Kings win for a change.
It feels so good, especially against the L.A. Lakers.
That's right.
All right, guys, make sure you smash up that like button down below. Consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy content like this. We will see you all on Friday morning for the
I
Royal...
think it's ridiculous too, Progressive G. Sorry.
We'll see you all Friday morning for the Royal Report. It's our Sacramento Kings sports talk show. It's about 30 minutes long. We wrap up an entire week of Kings basketball in about 30 minutes. So if you aren't able to watch all the games, just check out the show and you'll be up to date. And then we'll catch you all Friday after the Rockets game for another post game. We're here, we're drinking beers, we're talking about your Sacramento Kings, and we're having fun while we do it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a good evening, and in the meantime, go Kings.